Hello everybody, welcome to the Wonky Angle, where I talk about electronic music, both new and old. And today I am going to be talking about the new album from the Polish Ambassador, Dreaming of an Old Tomorrow. The Polish Ambassador is the alias for David Sugalski. I don't need pronunciation good. A synth-pop, electro-pop, electro-funk producer from California. He's been at this for actually about a decade now, with his debut album Diplomatic Immunity having dropped back in 2006. Now, I discovered the guy a few years ago via Pandora, not long after his Ecozoic album dropped, and eventually I started to look into the guy in more depth later, after his Pushing Through the Pavement album, which is almost 2 years old already? Wow, doesn't feel that long ago. Anyway, this guy's style is once again kind of electro-pop, electro-funk, kind of like recent Grammatic, but far more consistently good over the years. His first couple of albums admittedly sound pretty similar, but as time went on he started to experiment more and, well actually why tell you this here when I can just go down his discography so far. A fun series of 20 catchy video game soundtrack-influenced electro-pop songs, many of which aren't actually that long, but most of which still leave an impression anyway. Overall, pretty good stuff, I have to say. Highly recommended. More of the same stuff as the previous album, but with fewer but more fleshed out tracks. I think Diplomatic Immunity was better, but this one's got its moments. Again, more of the same. Not a particularly memorable entry in his discography, but if you like the previous two albums, you'll certainly like this one too. As you might pick up from the title, there are actual human voices in here, mostly through samples. It's a pretty massive double album. And while I'd be lying if I said every track was solid gold, there are definitely more hits than misses. Overall, really fun album. Definitely check it out. Okay, so we've got a more chilled out style on this one, which I can definitely appreciate. Here we have a pretty short EP with more of his usual sounds, but maybe more of a spacier edge to it. This album is absolutely huge, with 21 tracks, many of which are actually 2 tracks in one, and mostly averaging around 6 or 7 minutes each. Like First Words, it's not great all the way through, but it does a surprisingly good job of keeping my attention for such a long time. Overall, really fantastic album here. I remember this one completely catching me off guard, as there are a ton of world music influences on here with lots of African, Asian, Caribbean, and Middle Eastern sounds and instrumentation along the usual synths and funky melodies, but it's all more memorable because of it. Which brings us to this album. So, up to this point, the Polish Ambassador's had a pretty good track record. I was looking forward to this album because I wanted to see where he would bring his unique brand of electropop next. After all, he had brought it somewhere else with each successive album since First Words. With his previous album covering a lot of ground already, I wasn't really sure what to expect with this new album. This album is called Dreaming of an Old Tomorrow, so does that mean he'd be trying his old sound again? Maybe he'd mix his old sound with some of his new sound? Where would he take it? The answer is more or less exactly the same places as his last two albums. The Pushing Through the Pavement in particular. I suppose a part of me says I should have expected this, as the album cover is designed in a fairly similar way to his Pushing Through the Pavement album. But yeah, just like last time, this is a collection of mostly chill-out tracks with lots of vocal guests and world music and hip-hop influences. So yeah, stylistically it's nothing new, unfortunately. It's just kind of a rehash of Pushing Through the Pavement. The question, though, is the music good? Well, yeah, the music's good. I think it's more like a continuation of Pushing Through the Pavement. Same stylistically, but also the same quality-wise. I suppose that, yeah, that in turn does make this album worse, as a big part of why I liked that album as much as I did was because of how much of a surprise it was, and how much it contrasted to his old stuff. But this time, the surprises were kind of few and far between. That being said, we did at least get good music out of it. The intro, for instance, Circus Bender, was a lot of fun, with a melody played on the bells like his track Kids Music for Adults, with some cool choir and orchestral sounds on top. It is very much of the ecozoic mold, but moments like these were often my favorites on that album. Continental was another great ecozoic-esque track with smooth and satisfying vocals from Beat Beat Whisper, and some pretty catchy melodies. It may be a chill-out track, but it's one with more of a groove, so that's good. Center for Kids Who Can't Dance Good is a fantastic title, but it's also got a lot of Asian-sounding instruments and African drums, but also a pretty tight bass line that wouldn't have been out of place on first words. Camino Rojo, unsurprisingly, has a very Spanish feel to it. Lots of plunking guitars, smooth vocals, and, well, Spanish from singer Lula Cruza, and a weirdly cinematic feel to it as well. The bass line also really starts to get good on this one near the back half of the song. Another track that was a lot of fun was Hicktronicka, which has a lot of these kind of 70s guitar licks, kind of, as well as this guitar that has a lot of flanging effects on it, like wow, 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 that kind of stuff. This track has a really great groove to it that most of the other songs on here don't really have. Other tracks that turned out pretty good were Tornado, which is very much built to fit its collaborator Matisyahu. The fittingly titled Chill or Be Chilled, which is a very happy and lighthearted island vacation themed track with some nice rapping and singing from Nitty Scott. By the way, if this isn't tropical house, I don't know what is. And the more down-to-earth and dirty hip-hop number El Troubadour, which, as usual, has a lot more tropical percussion and cool horns. In terms of the slower numbers, I'm unfortunately gonna have to admit not much of them do much for me. The track Our Game was pretty good. It was smooth and emotional, worked pretty effectively. That was one of the good ones. But the album closes out with 3 songs in a row styled in pretty much exactly the same way as this one. None of them are particularly bad, but I kind of wish he'd spread them out more across the album instead of just clustering them all right there at the end. Rock It Hard, for instance. That's another track that's kind of like Our Game, placed more towards the middle and put in between 2 more up-tempo tracks, so I don't have any problems with that one. I think overall, though, this album does definitely leave some things to be desired. My main problem with this album is that it was kind of exploring the same kind of territory as Pushing Through the Pavement. And one of the things that I've liked about the Polish Ambassador's recent work was how he's continually been trying to keep his sound fresh from album to album, and the fact that he kind of just rehashed the last one was really disappointing. And just another little nitpick for me personally, I guess I just kind of wanted some more stuff that got my foot tapping. I mean, I like a good chill-out album, and the Polish Ambassador seems content making music that you can lie down by the beach to. And while I'm alright with it, I mean, I thought Echozoic was fantastic, well, here's the thing. He's good at chill-out, but he is great at dance music, and I wish he would do more of that stuff. He doesn't even have to get rid of the new tropical elements that he's been including in his newer albums. Well, maybe we could get like a Calypso-ish album from him next time. But judging it purely on its own merits, it's perfectly serviceable for what it is, and if you really liked Pushing Through the Pavement, you'll probably like this too. But this probably isn't a great place to start if you're just getting into him. If you were looking for something more chilled out from him, I'd recommend the far superior Echozoic first. Ecozoic first. I cannot decide how to pronounce that album. Or for something more intense, then go for Diplomatic Immunity or First Words. I can see this kind of thing getting old if he tries it again. I really don't like it when artists try to make the same album twice, and he had a really good run of not doing that. But, you know, he's not fallen off yet. I am a little conflicted over this album, but overall positive on this. Not his best, but certainly worth checking out at some point either way. I'm overall feeling a 7.3 out of 10. Favorite tracks: Circus Bender, Continental, Center for Kids Who Can't Dance Good, Camino Rojo, Our Game, and Hicktronicka. Least favorite track: Joyride. But of course, this is just my opinion. You can feel free to disagree with it, but I'd like to hear your thoughts. So leave the comments in the comment thing down there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all for today. See you next time.